Monday, October 13th. I'm Scott.
I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, unfocused rambling about old computers. Let's do this. All right, so we're not doing a tech news roundup, but we are doing an actual show, but I got a lot of little things to go over here. So,
Well, you see, Tech News Roundup is basically code for we couldn't think of a Monday.
all right, so already here
And
we
it's
go.
already Monday.
The first thing, right, is I went to get a haircut today. Not very exciting, right? Go get a $14 haircut from the generic barber or whatever.
Man, you know what? I haven't had a haircut since the last time I got that like $80 haircut at Grand Central.
All right.
That was like a year and a half ago.
But anyway, I go in, and he's cutting my hair, whatever. It's not very hard to cut my hair. And, I noticed as he's, combing and cutting and whatnot that my scalp is feeling real nice. It's like something is scratching it, but is also sort of massaging it, and it feels really good. And I look.
Pet rat?
No, dude's got a metal comb.
Ooh.
I'm like, whoa, metal comb. I never actually, it's like, like you would think that would be obvious, right? Because plastic combs are sort of like the hair beats. It's like the plastic combs can't defeat the hair. But a metal comb.
What kind of hair do you have?
But like a metal comb is just like hair out my way, So it just slides smooth no matter what your hair is up to.
I guess it depends on the metal. I mean, wrut iron not doing so well.
I think it was like, aluminum, stainless steel, something like that.
I guess cold iron
Probably
would work
aluminum.
if you were a demon.
I think it's probably aluminum. But anyway, so I'm like, wow, metal comb. I've never seen a metal comb before, but it's so obvious. And he's like, yeah, I hate plastic comb. And, this guy was from Russia. He's like, this comb I bring with me from Russia.
Oh, man, he's two more than X.
Right, and then he's got like the little, he has, instead of having a thing of Barbasol, right, he actually had like this little, like, it looked like a microwave that sterilized whatever was in it. It might have been like a mini clave thing,
Autoclave?
I don't think it was an autoclave, but it was a tiny, hairdresser sterilizing thing that was like a microwave. He opens it up, and inside he takes out this other comb, and he's like, here, this is also from same set, but I do not use this. And it was like this pristine, different metal comb.
Ooh, I wonder if he ever uses it.
He said he doesn't use it.
Wonder what it's for. I wonder, maybe it combed the hair of someone important.
I don't know, but I'm going to go on Amazon, and I was looking, and I saw some metal combs there. I'm going to try to pick one up, but the shipping's too much, so I'm going to look in the store first.
Huh. Is this going to be a trend? We went to our fancy shaving. You going to go to fancy combing?
I'm not going to do any fancy combing. I'm just going to get a metal comb because it feels better on the scalp than a plastic one. That's pretty much it.
Well, I actually, I've been saying pretty much all last winter, I kept saying, man, I'm going to buy blank. And I totally didn't. And then this summer, I was like, I'm going to buy blank while they're cheap. And I totally didn't. And then last weekend, I said, this weekend, I'm definitely going to buy blank. I'm, no matter what, going to buy blank, and I didn't buy blank.
Why do I always play this game of keeping a secret?
I don't know. Should we stop?
Nah.
You do it too. You can't just say, Rim always keeps
I don't
a
do
secret.
it so blatantly like that.
Blankety blank.
You got to do it subtly. You can't just be like blank. You got to, you got to dodge around something. If you
So
say,
I finally bought blanks for my pistol.
Great.
Now, I finally bought skis. Because, you see, as I think I talked about this a lot when I went skiing last winter and almost broke my neck because Scott Johnson, I can't say it was his fault, but basically we're standing at the top of, hadn't skied in a long time. I wasn't that good at skiing when I was a kid, so we do the Bunny Hill. No, we didn't die. All right. We do the Blue Square. Hey, we didn't die. That was kind of easy. All right. Do the Black Diamond. Hey, we didn't die. I guess we're invincible. We did the double Black Diamond, and I almost died.
Uh-huh.
So, it was time. I decided this winter I'm gonna go to lessons. I'm gonna ski like as many weekends as I can.
You get lessons?
Well, I got lessons when I was a kid. I got a lot of lessons. That's how I learned how to ski because you see.
Yeah, but I mean, if you can do our lessons gonna help you go from hard to stupid hard.
Well, there are definitely some techniques in my. You can learn a lot about something in computers, but then. Because you learned it on your own, you're missing like one or two fundamental things. That's what it is.
As in, me. You're getting by, but you're doing it wrong.
Or like I'm doing most things right, but when I hit a mogul, I just fucking die because I can't deal with them at all.
Because you're not using the technique, you're just sort of doing it natural-like with intuitions, as opposed to doing it by the book.
I'm using the technique, but you have to use a different technique with moguls, like the way you got to turn differently on those things.
Uh-huh.
But anyway. the one thing I remember was that I was not that good at skiing. Like, I couldn't do a black diamond the last time I skied. And then this winter, I was doing black diamonds just fine. So I finally go to buy skis. And, I walk in, and I'm not going to pretend that I know a lot about skis because they've changed a lot. So I walk in to the ski house, and I find this guy. And I'm like, look, I haven't skied in like 10 years. I skied last season. I was doing really well for some reason. And he stops me, and he says, well, you were using a shaped ski, right? And I was like, you mean like those? And I point, and he's like, yeah, pretty much all skis are like that now. And I said, does that matter? And he said, well, basically, if you were skiing on one that wasn't shaped like that, and then you skied on one that was shaped like that, you're going to be about 10 times better because those skis are just absolutely better, and you're stupid to use an older ski.
Uh-huh.
And that's basically skiing as a sport has been made monumentally easier because of the advances of technology.
So usually, like, even a sport, when the technology advances, it, like, allows you to push the limit, but it usually doesn't make it easier. It's like fancy ice skates and fancy sticks don't make it any easier to be great at hockey.
But no.
But if you're great at hockey, they allow you to, even be even greater and greater. But if you suck at hockey, it doesn't matter what curve you got on the blade. You're not going to score any goals.
But shaped skis just make it so much easier. He was like, yeah, in the old days, like now, if you want to turn, you just turn, and it just works. So he pretty much said that was the reason I felt like I was so much better than I used to be, and that it wasn't me losing my bad habits or just innately having skill. It was just far superior technology. So then, I'm looking, and the skis range from like $400 to like $2,000. So of course,
obviously the more expensive skis are vastly superior.
So I look around for a bit, then I say, all right, what's the difference between this ski, and I hold up this like $600 ski, and this ski, and it's $800? And he's like, about $200, and that one's blue. Yeah. And I was like, seriously? He's like, there's no difference. Look, this one's like a tiny bit narrower, but that's not going to matter. They're shaped the same. They're the same basic length.
How does this guy make any money? He should have made up some bullshit about how the $200 one was $200 better.
I think part of the reason is that he could tell. I don't know if he could tell that I wasn't going to take any BS, or if he just, because he seems like he actually skis a lot.
But see, and that's the other thing, right? Is if you're, let's say, if there's nobody in the world who that blue ski would have been better for, then why even stock it?
You want to know why? One, I think I realized what it is. It's one, if you are an expert skier, like I pointed to some other skis, and he said like, well, that one has this special binding, and it'll prevent the ski from flattening out completely when you're taking a carve, which is kind of the way you turn on hardpack. And I was like, will that affect me at my skill level? And he said, I've been skiing for 20 years. It doesn't affect me. And I said, will it affect anyone? He said, yes, there are people for whom this would be an advantage. None of those people are in this store right now.
Okay.
But, one thing went through, and finally I'm like, all right, what ski should I buy? And he just grabs one, and he says this one. And I said, what length? And he looks at me, and he looks over, he grabs a one specific length and says, this length, 169.
All right.
And I was like, how much is this? $260. What? I thought it was 600. No, this is last year's ski. This year's skis are all 600. Last year's skis are like $200 because no one wants them. What's the difference? About $400. So, all right, I need ski boots. I'm not going to tell this. Basically, he did the same thing with ski boots. I'm like, what ski boots should I buy? And he just says this one. I was like, why? That's the one I use. It also happens to be the second cheapest one in the store. Should I buy the cheapest one? No, it's terrible.
Why does he even have it? If it's terrible, why does he even have it?
In case people are poor.
If you're poor, why are you guys going skiing?
You can actually ski for pretty cheap. It's only really that expensive if you buy your own equipment and don't use it all the time, or you go to like fancy places far away to ski.
Yeah, but if you're poor, rent. Don't do it that often.
If you already own skis and there's a local little ski place, skiing's not that expensive. Anyway, if any of you...
You know where skiing's real cheap? Iran. Iran has the cheapest skiing.
If anyone out there wants to ski with me, I'm going to be skiing a lot in the Mid-Hudson Valley this winter. On my brand new super cheap skis. Oh, man.
All right.
That's all I got, really. So what do you got in the sciencey techie news?
I got 3 quick newses here, right? Number 1, I'm probably not going to talk about this because they're not going to announce anything exciting, but tomorrow is Apple Laptop Announcy Day, right? The only things you should actually be concerned with, right? People are spreading rumors about this brick thing where they're going to make a laptop out of a solid piece of aluminum and sort of carve it out. Screw that, whatever. What you should be concerned about is, number 1, they're discussing making an $800 Apple laptop, which is not a bad idea. And here's the reason that this is very likely, is because I think that this is what I heard, right? That somehow it was calculated that, because, Apple likes to sell laptops at these incredibly huge margins. So if you look at just the power of the hardware versus what you could get for the same amount in a PC, it's like Apple's hardware, the speeds and the amount of RAM is so weak, because they just overcharge for everything. But what's going to do, if they do an $800 laptop, they're going to do it on a low margin. It's actually going to be pretty comparable to a PC laptop, which is good in this bad economy. But someone was like, why would they do this after their years and years of, having these, ridiculous margins and everything? Somebody said that by their calculations, if Apple doesn't put out an $800 laptop, that the stock would devalue so much that they would actually lose more money than they lose by decreasing the margins on this thing.
I have all my opinions about that, but I'm not allowed to talk about them.
Right. But basically, Apple laptops tomorrow. Oh, and I was walking down the street to the Apple store to get because there's a recall on the, little power adapty things for the iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to take care of that. They make you give them like your iPhone serial number. They don't just trade in for the the physical thing.
Huh. Well, maybe if you had one of the new ones and then you dropped it or soaked in water or something, and I don't know how many people break those things.
No, because the new ones have a green dot on them and the plugs are shaped differently a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, I saw a guy walking down the street away from the Apple store with a MacBook. It was in one of those, the boxes that looked like he just bought it.
Yep.
If he uses that as his case, then all right. But if he just bought a MacBook, does he not? I mean, in the Apple store, they're pretty. I didn't even see any MacBooks. It was just all new iPods everywhere. So I don't know what that guy was doing. Maybe it's an
Sometimes they have a
emergency.
reason.
I guess maybe he could have had an emergency situation, but I have a feeling that guy mistakenly bought a MacBook on the worst possible day. Okay. Second tiny news. Ready? It's real tiny. There's a study warning of hearing loss from music players.
I was going to talk about that because it's basically, it's not BS. I mean, the news is true, but the answer is just wear isolation earbuds and you won't have a problem.
Right. And we've talked about this a million times before, but it needs to be repeated again for the sake of people's hearing, which is very important, right? I hate how all these studies say your hearing loss is from the portable music player. It's not from the portable music player. The portable music player is not to blame. What is to blame is that you have these crappy earbuds. And if you have earbuds in and there are noises around you, like you're walking down a city street or you're sitting in a place where a lot of people are talking, the noise of the people talking, the background noise, also gets in your ear. So you have to crank up the volume on your iPod or whatever in order to make your music or your podcast louder than the noises around you. And thus, everyone who uses iPods and has these crappy headphones like the ones that come with the iPod cranks it way up, and by cranking the volume way up, you're having more decibels per unit time constantly, and that damages your hearing. The solution is to, A, don't turn it up. If you don't have, isolation earbuds or noise-canceling headphones, there's a lot of background noise, just turn your iPod off. Don't listen in that situation because you're going to hurt yourself. And they're a lot of money, but they're worth it. Get isolation earbuds or noise-canceling headphones. You put them in, and they either use noise-canceling technology to cancel out noises, or they seal your ear so that other outside noises don't get in at all, and all you can hear is the music. And let me tell you, when I was using normal iPod headphones, I used to have to turn my iPod mini up to like 80% of the max volume to hear it. Now, with my, ever since I started using Etymotics like a couple years ago, I can turn the thing down on my iPhone to like 25%, and it's loud.
And honestly, while we're at it, you really should own, I say this because it's relevant, since at PAX I saw that very few people had them, but buy a nice pair of earplugs, like concert earplugs, if you like to go to metal concerts. Because if you're at a concert and you're not wearing earplugs, you're pretty much stupid.
Yeah, I mean, there are some situations where you go to a concert, you take your earplugs out for a little bit to rock out pretty hard, but you should not do that for an entire concert. You will guaranteed, especially like a metal concert or something, or any sort of rock, pop concert, even at like a dance club, if you don't have any earplugs in, You're damaging your hearing, and it's impossible to repair. You will be damaging it permanently.
Well, someday we'll have the bionic ears.
Someday we'll have the bionic ears. Until then, if you want to hear and not have hearing aids when you're old, do what we say. Okay.
But also, it's a crime. I see people wearing those, like, foam ones they bought for like $5 before the concert. They just make everything sound terrible.
They do make things sound terrible, but they're better than nothing.
Yeah, but it's so little more money to buy like professional equal decibel reduction plugs from like Etymotic or some other company.
This is what people don't realize is that those foam things that you buy, right? Because music is all about frequencies, right? So if you want to make music quieter, you need to reduce the volume of all the frequencies, of audio equally. Those foam things reduce some frequencies more than others. So maybe you won't hear the bass as much, or maybe you won't hear the trebles as much. If you go and buy, I think what are they called? The Eddy 15s that we have?
Yeah, because they reduced it by 15 decibels.
Eddy 15s, or, you can get any other earplugs. These are just the ones we buy because we're Etymotic fanboys, I guess. I don't know. But because they're
like $10.
Because they're like $10, $15, and you put these in, and it reduces every frequency of audio by exactly 15 decibels. So the music sounds exactly the same, just quieter. And a live concert was better than that, right? So you should just carry them with you anywhere, especially if concerts are going to happen. Okay, and my final tiny news is that OpenOffice 3.0 came out today-ish, and their website is totally ruined, and basically all they have is a download page up, and everything else is down. But they added some new features, like compatibility with the new, Microsoft Office formats and some other BS like that. And people are discussing, is this really enough to call it 3.0? Is it really that different from the previous one? Apparently, you can open PDFs in it and possibly edit them. And OpenOffice has long had the feature to export to PDF. So that's a good enough reason to upgrade right there. But, really, OpenOffice is sort of big and slow, and people only really use, at least, it has like drawing and all these other, it's a suite. It's an Office suite. It has all the different parts. I've never seen anyone use any part except for the word processing, the spreadsheet, and the presentation. I've never seen anyone else use any of the other parts of OpenOffice. So I don't even know why they keep making them or anything. But really, in my opinion, you either got Microsoft Office for free or your company paid for it or something, or, that's fine. But if not, just use, a word processor and a spreadsheet. Like I use Abby Word and Numeric. And I use Google Docs. What do I need this big, clunky Office suite for that has a million features I'm never going to use?
Honestly, I have OpenOffice installed, and part of the reason is that, one, I often open Word documents.
I have it
and
installed, yeah.
Yeah, but I use it for, if I make a Google presentation, I export it to PowerPoint, and then I open it in OpenOffice.
Yeah, I'll use it for, sort of like these off situations. I won't use it like regularly. I won't go to it, but sometimes I'll have it there just in case there's like a, what's it called?
Yep. Well, I'll also use it to
one of those outlying situations.
I'll use it to make presentations because if I'm not on the internet, then Google Gears is basically useless.
That's true. It's true. All right. But yeah, if you're, if you need an Office thing, or maybe you're using OpenOffice already, you need to upgrade it, or you're interested in trying to open up PDFs and edit them, maybe making a character sheet for a game or something like that, go for it.
So I got to talk about this. I'm not going to talk about it at length because eventually we'll either have to do a show on it or I'll have to write some sort of angry thesis about it. But, well, in this case, it's good news. Thomas, which is the kind of legislative information part of the Library of Congress, and yes, it's named after Thomas Jefferson.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite presidents, even though his Navy, not such a good idea.
Well, that's the thing, is like it seems like every president throughout history had like greatness, but also terribleness. And I think that is the mark of a great president. Greatness and terribleness. You need both.
What bad did William Henry Harrison do in his term of office?
What good did William Henry Harrison do?
So he balanced out. That's better than we could hope for.
No. You need to have a greatness and a terribleness at the same time.
Greatness. More people remember his name than many other presidents. And he
not
did no
greatness.
harm.
No, you have to achieve greatness in your life, not in your death.
Taft achieved great corpulence.
That was Taft is an example of a bad president. Only terribleness, no greatness.
I think Grant drank more alcohol than all the rest of them combined.
Again, only terribleness, right? Lincoln had greatness and terribleness. Win Civil War, be an asshole. You see, the greatness and the terribleness. Andrew Jackson have huge balls and do what you want. That's greatness. Do a bad thing though, because what he wanted was bad terribleness.
James
Perfect.
Madison.
That's why he's on the $20 bill.
James Madison's my man, even though I'll bet a lot of you listening can't name anything he did.
I can't name anything he did.
Oh my God. All right, anyway, I'm not going to belabor the point because this is all quick news here. But Thomas publishes permanent, I just wanted to use that alliteration there, links. Basically, the news is that there is now an official permanent way to link to legislation. So if you want to reference...
As in for bibliographies?
Yes. It's basically a way to have a permanent link to legislation that is itself enshrined in the protocols of the Library of Congress.
So you could then send one of those links to the Library of Congress and they can send you to law?
Or, well, you can just click on that link and see the law.
That's good too.
Basically, I'm going to actually read from the slash shot here. With prompting from the Sunlight Foundation's Open House project, which is a very good thing, by the way, the U.S. Library of Congress has announced today that its online database, Thomas, will now generate persistent URLs. They're going to call these legislative handles for legislative documents. Quote, it is certainly nice to be able to link to legislation with a persistent link.
Can I link to like different, like, you know, maybe I'll link to say the DMCA, right? Can I link to like, I don't know how the laws are arranged. I'm not a lawyer. Like clause 33 of the DMCA, you know, get to the middle of it and such like that?
Honestly, I have no idea because I didn't look into this yet.
Hey, lawyers, figure this out for us.
Basically, though, I think it's a step in the right direction because
Oh, definitely.
I'm of the mind that, one, every single law in the United States, from the federal to the state to the international to the local
to the small podunk ordinance,
needs to be online, not just online and free to everyone online for anyone to link to, look at, copy, whatever. It should also be available in every library in your locale, at least your local laws, and basically needs to be available at zero cost to anyone, any citizen who asks. No, anyone in the world who asks. That is my feeling, and that is...
It needs to be in the public domain.
Yes.
So you could take it and do shit with it and, you know, include it. You know, like, not just so I can link to it, but I need to be able to, like, take it, edit it, and put up a new document on my site, and then et cetera, et cetera.
At least luckily, all those instances of copyrighted law in the U.S. are very slowly being overturned by a small number of very vocal activists, but I feel like in the end, the law needs to be codified entirely in digital form. And sadly, while I would say that's a great step forward, that's maybe 0.1% of what I actually want to happen with law, but this is such a step in the right direction that I encourage all of you to go here, follow this link, read about this, and get involved in all these initiatives, because I don't think very many people in the U.S., let alone do they know the law, they don't even have access to the law or don't know they have access to the law. It's very difficult.
And even if they did have access and they tried to read it, they wouldn't understand it.
It's very difficult for non-lawyers to understand or even get access to the law. I mean, I have browsed the law library in my building at work. You know, my building has a law library for all of us to access. And I've made heads and almost a tail of exactly one thing I read there once. It's just,
So I can sometimes understand a clause or two. But I think if they had every law online like that, then people who were lawyers, you know, who either were being paid as part of or volunteering or something like that, could go through and sort of translate laws, you know, sort of into colloquial speak for people to understand, and then link to the original. And so we could make sort of like a second database of, you know, understandable to the layman law.
If you want my kind of
It wouldn't be
overarching
binding,
plan,
obviously, in court or anything, but it would just be for people to look up, you know, and to help themselves without having to pay a lawyer for basic things.
what I really want is that from there, I feel like all laws should be hyperlinked. Maybe not using the hyperlink transfer protocol, but something where all kind of
You
terms...
mean hypertext transfer protocol?
Yes, but any term in a law that's a legal term should always have a link to a kind of legal definition of that term.
Well, usually when I've looked at some laws, and what they'll do is the top of a law will define like the magic terms it's going to use in itself. But, you know, even that is when you're reading the law, anytime the term appears, you'll be able to click on it and it'll take you to the top. Or pop open that little definition from the top in a window or something, you know, something like that.
But my long-term, like 50-year out idea is that we should have, all laws should be written in some kind of markup language. I always say XML, but you need some sort of special markup language for laws, such that, say, on a federal level, right?
I think law sort of is written in a language, but it's a legal language.
Yes, it needs to be a language that is much more understandable to computers.
So we need law ML, basically.
Something like that. I mean, imagine this.
We have
Imagine
math
if
ML.
possession. You know, the idea of possession is defined in all different states and all different towns in different ways, but the basic idea of possession should be defined universally, I think, across the entire country. And then anytime possession is referenced in a law, that state is already defined by this top thing, and then you only supersede that, kind of like inheritance if you're writing object-oriented code, if you need a very specific altered definition for your specific law. And most laws shouldn't need that. And maybe you define possession of, and then there's different possessions depending on what you are defining possession of. And if we spent 20 or 30 years sorting all this out, I think we could solve the majority of the legal problems we have in the U.S. today.
It'll take a lot less time to figure stuff out, at least. The problem is how many errors would be in there after people were typing all the shit in.
Yeah, but this is one of my kind of long-term pipe dreams that is probably good. We're going to have to wait until AI is around. That'll just do it for us.
Yeah, they'll be the AI judge of the world, and then it'll kill us all.
As long as it doesn't turn into Judge Dredd.
Rims, guilty. Guilty.
Okay. Things of the day. So, I would say you've all, but I know a lot of you were in high school.
So you're going to say y'all instead.
You know, when I lived down south for not a short time, but a month or so while I was at space camp and traveling, I got real close to saying y'all a couple times.
All right.
It went away. But so all of you are probably either already had this experience or someday will. The experience of having an RA. This video on College Humor.
A resident advisor.
Yeah, and then there's other terms, but basically it's that dude in college who is kind of the leader of your floor in your dorm. And your goal is to have as little interaction with this person as possible. But that will often be unavoidable. But
well, it depends, on what your exact, the social nature of your floor is like and how much interaction you'll want to have. But generally, you don't want them to come bothering you unless you're friends with them.
I skipped every single floor meeting because it was pointless and they couldn't do anything to me. But
we
anyway,
barely had any floor meetings. My RA was the best RA in the universe.
We had floor meetings kind of often because of what went on in Fish B.
Oh, that's right. You lived in Fish B.
Yes, I lived in the infamous fucking Fish B. Well, I wouldn't say the worst place to live because that would be over in some of those other dorms, but I won't name. But Fish B was special. But RAs are a certain breed of person. They are either the rare, incredibly awesome RA, and those RAs are all kind of the same, or they're
mine,
or they're the normal RA, the eponymous RA, the RA that you expect, and that RA is what you see in this video.
Yeah, in this video, it's the stereotypical RA.
And let me tell you, most RAs I met were exactly like that, to the point that if this video had been older, I would almost guess that they were affecting the behavior of this video in their RA-ness. But no, RAs are really like that.
I think it's that type of person who is like that is the type of person that signs up to be an RA.
Only two kinds of people sign up to be RAs. People who have no money and need free dorms, or people who are like this.
Yep.
And the people who have no money are the ones who end up being the awesome RAs.
Yep. Because they either don't give a shit or they're awesome. But anyway.
Well, watch this video because next Thursday's show, I think we're going to do a show about college dorms. I was inspired.
All right. So you know how there's a lot of rich people out there. Well, not that many, but people always make fun of rich people for spending their money on stupid shit. They'd be like, oh, you bought your golden toilet seat. Oh, you bought your 100 Porsches. What the fuck's wrong with you?
Is this a collection of stupid crap rich people bought?
No. Not at all. There's one rich man. His name is Jay Walker. He's the guy who made a bunch of money from Priceline.com.
Johnny Walker?
No, Jay Walker.
Jay Walker.
Yes.
Okay.
His name is Jay Walker. How you like that?
J-A-Y or J period?
J-A-Y.
All right.
But he's rich. He got rich from Priceline.com, among other things, right? And he spent his money on, a lot of things, but what we're focusing on here is the library in his house, or one of his houses. I don't know how many houses he has. But let me list some of the things that are in this library, and you tell me if this is a rich person who knows how to spend their money. Let me tell you, all right? You ready? He has a Sputnik.
The first one?
No, but one of them.
Just he bought it from Russia?
One of the ones that wasn't sent into space.
Wow.
Wait. Books.
Wait a minute. There is totally a business opportunity for fake Sputniks. Oh my God, if I lived in Russia, would I be selling fake Sputniks with certificates of authenticity to rich people? Oh my God, would I be doing that?
Books bound in rubies.
Which books? And one, why not human flesh?
Oh, what are the name for books, that are all, old medieval picturesque books? What are those called? There's the word for them.
Tomes?
No, there's like a fancy word for them. I forget.
I don't know. They're illuminated.
Yeah. 20th century volumes of jeweled bindings crafted the legendary firm Sangorsky and Sutcliffe something, something, something. Okay.
So he bought a book covered in rubies.
Oh, a bunch of them. He's got...
Wait. A bunch of books covered in rubies or one book covered in a bunch of rubies?
A bunch of books, many of them which are encrusted with gems. He's got an Enigma machine. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
He's got the original Thing from the Addams Family, and it's holding on to a little case filled with all sorts of glass eyeballs. He's got a Civil War surgery set.
Ooh.
He's got a model of, I think, the X-29.
Just a model.
He's got the instruction manual for the Saturn V. He's got the chandelier from a James Bond movie.
Which one? Because that matters.
Die Another Day.
Oh, all right.
He's got FDR's napkin with the plan to win World War II written on it.
Wow.
He's basically got a whole bunch of shit in this library. And he's got a model, basically a moon globe.
Wait, what was the plan? Industrialize, ...
He's got a moon globe signed by most of the people who have been on the moon.
I thought you were going to say Moses.
No. But that wouldn't be too bad either.
Moses.
Basically, there's like a million other awesome, crazy things in this dude's library, like fossils and like, famous things.
All right, I can dig this because I feel like if I were that rich, I would probably own a similar, if not quite as ludicrous collection of things.
No, but you really like what I don't think I've correctly communicated the amazingness of this, but when you see it, you go, "Oh, that guy has spent his money wisely." Oh,
what was the famous Lewis Black? What'd you buy? Another car?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
I'm looking at you, Bill Gates and Jerry Seinfeld.
This is a lot better than a personal ball washer. Let me tell you.
So, well, it depends. Is it a personal ball washer that washes golf balls, or something far more sinister?
Just when you see this library, Rim, I think you'll be like, "Oh, oh."
So, what were we talking about? Since we tend to record, little known fact, we record the "I'm Rim" and "I'm Scott" and "This is Geeknights" after we record the show.
Didn't we? I guess we decided to go with the crab people idea of just talking about really old computers, at least old personal computers.
Yeah, I guess luckily we went kind of long in the front. That was intentional.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just start. When I was in kindergarten, right, it was the first time I ever actually used a computer. They had Apple II, and in elementary school, every classroom had Apple II, but there were some Mac 512s, and the library eventually got a really fancy Mac that had a CD-ROM. But that was my experience. Most of my experience with old computers was, old Macs in elementary school and, doing logo on the Apple IIs and all that business.
Wow. Honestly, the first computer I owned, as I've said before, was a 486 SX2.
No, the first computer I owned was a 486 DX4. But before that, I was, using lots of computers in school and in summer camp.
The first computer I used was a 386.
Wow. So
in 5th grade.
So I was using computers 4 years before you. That
were.
That explains a lot.
I don't know, because the thing is, I had a good computer. I got the 486 SX2 right when it came out. And
Mine is a DX4, 100 megahertz. It was real good with 8 megs of RAM.
But then
and a quad speed CD-ROM.
I had that Pentium Pro, which basically gave me the biggest dong in the world for a long time.
Yeah, for a while. But we're talking about computers older than those 486s. We're talking about Mac 512Ks, Mac Pluses, IBM XTs.
Honestly, the first time I ever typed a document on a computer was in 5th grade when I typed an essay. That basically was funny because, we wrote some dumb essay about this book called My Side of the Mountain.
I read My Side of the Mountain.
No, it wasn't that. I take that back. I like My Side of the Mountain. The essay was about Bearstone.
I don't know what that is.
It's about a bearstone. Anyway.
A stone that looks like a bear?
Basically, in 5th grade...
A stone where a bear lives?
They decided, after we wrote this essay, that they took the 5 smart kids in the class and said, you get to go to the computer lab, which was kind of new, and type your essay on the computer.
Oh.
So I went there and I typed my essay on the computer kind of slowly because I typed at a mediocre pace.
I didn't learn how to type until 10th grade.
You know when I learned how to type? Really? When I got ICQ.
And you know what's ironic, right? All those years I've been using Apple IIs, Macs, better Macs, right? I had the 486 even, still didn't know how to type. 10th grade, went to learn how to type.
Think about it.
And you know what? I took the keyboarding class at high school with this incredibly old teacher. She must have been like 80-something. And it was like her last year there. She retired pretty much right after she taught me how to type. And the one lab that she used to teach people how to type, the rest of the school had like Pentium 75s, Pentium 200s, right? The lab where you learned how to type had IBM XTs.
Oh, man. The parochial school I went to had IBM XTs. I used them a little bit, but I didn't really use them.
I only used them to learn how to type and to play typing games.
See, it's weird that I use computers a lot. Like, in 5th and 6th grade, like, as soon as I got access to computers, I immediately started, like, rebooting to DOS and running QBasic and, like, typing stuff and, like, writing programs and figuring stuff out. But I really couldn't type, honestly, until I got instant messaging. And pretty much as soon as I got ICQ, and I got ICQ, like, as soon as ICQ was available. And I was using it like betas, and I typed to people all the time. And that was how I learned how to type, because I refuse, like, it wasn't even like, well, it wasn't like, I don't want to be like these other people who can't type. I get online and everyone typed in complete sentences with periods, partly because the mechanism design of ICQ encouraged that sort of typing, as opposed to AOL, which encouraged OMG, BBQ, BBL, AFK, MOF, or MOS.
Yeah. Kind of. I think it also had to do with the community somewhat.
Yeah, let's see. AOL, American Punk Kids. ICQ, cool Israeli geeks, and geeks from all over the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
For whom English is not the first language most of the time.
But at the same time, anyone who used ICQ back then, in that early short period, was generally more geeky than anyone using AOL at the equivalent time.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. All right, but Dan, let's talk about the old computers. So, when I was in high school, actually, right? Because about that time, the schools were trying to get rid of a lot of the older computers, and I sort of got into it, and I started to pick up old computers. And actually, I have an Apple II GS in the closet. I also have a Mac Plus in the closet with 1 megabyte of RAM. Now, so people understand this, right? The Apple II GS was an Apple II, but it came out in 1986, and the GS stands for graphics and sound. And
now, I just want to point out for context, the 386 was produced from 1986 on.
Right, so this
That's
was
the era.
Now, remember, this is an Apple II, just like those, when people think of the Apple II, they think of the green screen Apple II, right? This is that same computer. It runs the same software as the Apple II, but there's colors, a lot of colors, at least compared to an Apple II, and a lot of sounds. You can actually get really good sound out of this thing. And a lot of people today, well, not a lot, but there are people today who have so much shit hooked up to their Apple II that they still use it as a primary computer. These things, people have them playing Wolfenstein. People have them connected to the internet with modems and instant messenger and
now,
web browsers.
I should point out that as cool as this is, these people don't hold a candle to those Amiga people.
Well, I think the Amiga was a somewhat more powerful machine, and you sort of had to go through less great. It just shows the versatility of the Apple II. I mean, the Apple II is sort of like I think of it as like Wozniak's masterpiece. You open up the Apple II GS, and it's just these open slots that are all identical. It's like perfect for just making it do anything. It's a beautiful machine, and people have overclocked the CPUs, installed different CPUs in there, and the Apple II GS is really something to behold. And there's no reason to get a regular old Apple II except for historical purposes if you can get your hands on a GS. And on eBay, it's not too hard. And I use my GS to play some Oregon Trail. At least I did a long time ago.
Yeah, except the thing is, I like to own awesome old things, but I generally don't like to own awesome old computers because I can just emulate the software. And the hardware just takes up space and smells vaguely of like old ozone and burning.
I love the way it smells. It smells so great. And plus, you never get over that flipping the 5 1/4 floppies over and then hearing it go, ding, ding, those noises that the drive makes.
You know, I don't even own. I used to own this big bundle of 5 1/4 floppies. I don't know where any of them went. Or
I have
5 1/2.
drives, but I don't have too many of the floppies left. I need to get some of those because all the images to put on those floppies are online. So if I get a 5 1/4 drive that could go on my regular computer, I could then download images of Apple II software, put them on those discs,
I'll bet
and then
someone
put them in the Apple II.
I'll bet someone makes USB ones.
Oh, maybe.
I'll definitely bet. If someone doesn't, there's a business opportunity for geeks.
Yeah, maybe I'll go pick one up. But yeah, the Mac Plus, people don't realize, right? The Mac and the Mac Plus and the Mac 512K, those are the Macs where it's just one box with a screen and the auto-ejecting 3.5-inch floppy drive right under the screen. That's what those are. I know it's sort of like, that's the one we turn it on, it goes do, and there's the smiley face, or more often the frowny face, right? That is that's the Mac. People don't, a lot of people don't seem to get this, the difference in their minds very easily, because they weren't, paying attention back then. But the Mac and the Apple II are very different, very different. But the thing about the Mac is it's kind of crazy that on my IBM PCs, these 100 megahertz deals with 16 megs of RAM, you were lucky if you had SCSI, and you were super lucky if it worked, like 100 times lucky.
I remember because when I built my first computer, I bought that SCSI Plextor 8X burner. There wasn't even RW.
Yep.
I spent so much money on that stupid thing.
And I remember when I bought my Pentium 3 450, right? It was pretty much like IDE drives are normal. SCSI drives are way better and way awesome, but pretty much are only good if you have a lot of money. So I didn't get those. But my Mac 512K, Mac Plus, it has SCSI. That's all it has. And I have an external 20 megabyte hard drive for it that has Carmen Sandiego and a bunch of other things on it. And all it is you open the box, and there's a semi-modern-ish 20 megabyte Seagate drive in there, a connector, a little board, a power supply, and then a SCSI connector. And it's a 20 megabyte SCSI drive, and you can boot off it.
It's just weird to think, and I think we've talked about this before, but how differently we used computers before they were on the internet, and like what computers were for. And computers were pretty much entirely for typing papers for school and otherwise like tinkering. There was nothing to do on a computer but play games, tinker, or type something.
Yeah, pretty much. At least,
or I guess do accounting.
Yeah, I get, if you were doing some sort of business, I mean, a lot of people, there was spreadsheets, and you could do, a lot of people would do print shop things, like Microsoft Publisher, stuff like that, print out greeting cards. If you had a printer, there was a lot of stuff you could do, and sort of, desktop publishing was really big.
Desktop publishing, I should add that in. But outside of those things, there was no reason to use a computer. And I remember I had a lot of friends who, even if their family had a computer, they didn't use them because they thought they were boring. There was nothing to do on them.
The computer is basically a gaming machine that you could also do your homework on. And that was pretty much it. No one used it to do anything else.
Except the geeks who would constantly break it and then try to unbreak it.
Yeah, just constantly fiddling with everything that was on there just to find something to do. But
I would, as a kid, spend hours when I found out about MIDI.
Eventually, when you had CD-ROMs, you had encyclopedias, but even those weren't so
We'd
great.
all watch that same 14-second clip of Martin Luther King saying, "I have a dream."
Is that in Microsoft Expedia?
Yes, maybe. Or that banana spinning in space. Or I had that Microsoft video. It was this, oh my God, it was a music video called Octopus of Love. And all I remember is that the lyrics were, "I got a girl who's got 8 arms, wraps them around me, holds me tight." It was on my computer. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was from Microsoft or from one of those multimedia CDs, or maybe it was from
multimedia CDs are great.
Maybe it was from Packard Bell.
Yeah, I remember back then it was all you could get on your computer was what you had a disc for. So it was all about getting discs. You get as many CDs as you could because more CDs meant you could have more stuff because you weren't getting anything other way. I
remember buying, when we first bought the computer, it was called 31 and then in tiny print shareware, back to big print, games for Windows.
Oh, wow.
It had Miles Bones, Solitary.
I like Miles Bones. Oh, one other old computer I remember is we had some friends, and their dad worked for IBM. I think he still works for IBM. And, not the same IBM RIM worked for the other one, right? In another state.
Well, it was the same IBM.
Yeah, it's the same big giant company around the world, but it was a separate building as he's doing different work. Anyway, they had an IBM PS1. Now, people might notice,
Oh, man.
on the back of your computer, today, most mice and keyboards are USB. But some people have PS2 mice and keyboards, right? They're those circle things with a bunch of pins in the middle. And it's called a PS2 port because the IBM PS2 was the first computer to have those kind of ports. And they invented those ports for the mice and keyboards on the IBM PS2. Before that, keyboards used the XT connectors, or the AT connectors for the IBM XT or the AT. The IBM PS1 was what came before the IBM PS2. It did not have PS2 ports, but they had this machine. It was really sort of crazy compared to every other computer out there. If you've never, there's really nothing else out there that's like an IBM PS1. I mean, we played Monopoly on this thing. We played a lot of what's that game where you walk around the school and you take pictures of the robots and figure out which one's the criminal?
Oh yeah, I hated that game, but I remember playing it at school because it's all I could do.
I love that game. It's a great
Oh my god.
Midnight Rescue.
Yep.
And there was another game just like it where you were an elf on a mountain and these dwarves came up and pestered you, but it was basically the same game and you caught them in a net. It was a good game. It was like Wizard something or other.
Even though basically the school had all these games that we were supposed to play, but I always every computer in the secret directory for when the real teacher wasn't around, or you were in the room because you were in the room for some reason, or after hours when the cool teacher who ran the computer club was there. We had Scorched Earth, Stunts 40 Racing, and LHX. That's all
that was
we played.
later.
That was but that was
the
my
one thing
computing.
about this IBM PS1 that I remember so much, right, was that it had Prodigy, right? And people
I had Prodigy.
Yeah, but what was your Prodigy running on?
I was running it on a 486.
Right. 486 Prodigy was nothing like IBM PS1 Prodigy.
I can bet.
IBM PS1 Prodigy, first of all, a lot of the things that people don't realize this, right, who weren't around back in the day. Nowadays, when you get an internet connection, it's like, aha, I'm connected to the internet. Then you can run any software that uses internet. So you can run Skype, you can run AIM, you can run your web browser. Anything that uses the internet connection, you run, and you're always connected, right? Back in the day, you would dial up, so you weren't always connected. You're only connected when you double-clicked on the telephone, and then you disconnected when you were done. Also, the only thing that could really connect was the program you used. So if you were on Prodigy, right, that meant that you would double-click on Prodigy, it would connect, and you could do Prodigy things, and then you close Prodigy, and that was it. You didn't have other internet programs, especially on a non-multitasking IBM PS1.
Yep. I mean, I remember even when I had Prodigy, it was over a 2400 baud modem. I could do more by dialing into local BBSs than I could on Prodigy. Prodigy, all I did was, chat and be the leader of the Black Guild of our Magic the Gathering clan.
Yeah. I remember on the IBM PS1 of that Prodigy, mostly what we did was we played Mad Maze, because there were a lot of things.
I couldn't even play Mad Maze. My modem was too slow.
No, they had a little faster modem than that. Plus, it was IBM PS1 version of Mad Maze. So it was a little different than the later version. And we would always fill out surveys, and polls and things. I mean, think about that. A poll now is like a standard feature on the side of a website. Imagine if it was go to the polls, and you'd fill out the polls and then see the results. It was like, oh my gosh. And we'd spend a lot of time doing that because it was fun.
Yeah, I remember I had a pirated copy of Autodesk Animator and another pirated copy of Macromedia Action, which was pre-Flash, pre-everything. It was basically a way to make what we now call a PowerPoint presentation a long time ago. And let me tell you, I would spend hours as a kid because, not online, there's nothing to do with the computer but fiddle with it. I figured out the logic of this program because I pirated it. I didn't have any instructions or anything, and there was no online to tell me what to do. Making animations by having fonts and wingdings and pictures move around and embedding video from my multimedia CDs, and those were good times. I made the credits to a movie that me and my friends never made but kept saying we would. I made the opening and closing credits.
Yeah, the one thing about Prodigies and AOLs and stuff back in those days, what it really... even though it wasn't, it really felt like, AOL or Prodigy were games in themselves, and that basically you were exploring a lot and it felt a lot like how you explore in Metroid or Castlevania.
AOL, forget even later, the early internet, when I first got real internet, I skipped Prodigy, I had Prodigy internet, and which was basically Prodigy, but they also let you go in the real internet. And even the internet was exploring. I'd go to a website, wow, I'm at a website, what's here? And the links from that website weren't just links or citations. They were like doors to other parts of the internet. And I'd walk around the internet.
Yeah, nowadays that fascination's sort of gone. It doesn't work like that anymore.
And basically, Google killed it mostly.
Yeah, Google was really the killer.
Google was the first time I could search for things reliably. And it worked. And I could find what I was looking for.
But like AOL, like you could open up the thing and type in a keyword.
And sometimes the keyword took you where you wanted. Sometimes it took you somewhere scary. I remember I'd sit
there were all these like, there were secret hidden keywords people talk about.
I remember there were rumors around my school where people were like, if you type in this keyword, they give this long keyword, it'll show you boobs.
Yeah. Or if like you click here, here, and here, there's like a bunch of games to download and play. And there was like a bunch of crappy games you could download.
And I remember we'd sit there because Prodigy had a similar to AOL keyword thing. And I remember we'd sit with our friends like late at night and we'd type in random keywords and see what it found us.
Mm-hmm.
Demystification is a sad thing. I don't know. It's weird. We said this about calculators, and I hate to say things like this because it's always the thing that the old man says. Kids today using their fancy calculators. Slide rules made me a better man. But at the same time, the fact that the computer was only useful either to do tasks, play games, or tweak it and explore it to no end whatsoever. I feel like that is what gave me my love of computers more than anything else ever could.
Yeah. I really think that's why, people today, even like younger people, there's always this stereotype that younger people know how to use technology, the older people don't.
No, they know how to use.
They know how to do their MySpaces and their whatnot, but they don't know. It used to, our generation, because our generation of people, when we were kids, some people used computers and some people didn't. Right? It wasn't like every kid was using one like now. It was we used them, other people didn't use them. And the people who did, because of the nature of the machines available at the time to the average person, those who did actually learned. If you were a PC gamer in those days of DOS, you learned about, high memory and low memory and boot disks and batch files.
And that knowledge is obsolete today. Like knowing how to move stuff into high memory and the difference between extended and expanded memory is useless today.
Well, it's if you're writing x86 assembly DOS stuff today.
It's useful.
Right.
But, all right, really, it's useless. But the process of figuring that out on my own, because there was no one to tell me. There was no internet to tell. There was nothing. I would sit there and I heard rumors that High Mem and MemMaker gave you more memory. So I typed them and they broke things, but then I learned what they did.
And turning off smart drive.
Oh my God.
Right. But I think that because of that is sort of the reason that, when we have a problem with computers, we generally don't, or it's a hardware problem we couldn't do anything about, just broke. And other people are asking us questions that could be answered just by typing the question into Google. And I think if you really want to know and learn computers for real, maybe it's worth your time, to go and get an old computer and sort of, play with it and explore it and sort of figure it out.
You know what? Here it is. Find a 486 somewhere. They're not that hard to find. And hardware is better because you'll learn a lot of really weird stuff. But I guess a Plex emulator or something would work. Get an old DOS game like Fantasy Empires or something, and just try to, without looking online, get it installed.
Mm-hmm.
From the discs.
Mm-hmm.
You'll learn more from doing that.
And get the sound to work.
You might be asking too much. You realize that I never got the sound to work in half my games. I
got the sound to work in every game because I had a Sound Blaster 16.
I had a Forte 16.
That's right.
And then some ad-lib bullshit.
See, I had a completely average run-of-the-mill Sound Blaster 16. So in every single game I said, I have a Sound Blaster 16. That means you're going to work. And it said, hells yes.
But I didn't come before you, obviously, but I superseded you because I remember when I was really getting into music and I had a keyboard. And I remember one day, I was playing with my Casio CT 655 and, I was looking at the back of it and I was trying to figure out because there are all these other things. And finally I was like, what the fuck is that MIDI thing anyway? And about a month later, as I'd figured all this out, went to my dad and I said, Dad, I need an upgrade to the computer. I need a sound card. He was like, it makes sound. And I was like, no, it doesn't make real sound. I can make it make real sound. He was real dubious. And eventually, I don't think he understood what I was trying to explain, and I didn't really understood. But he said, "How much will this cost?" I said, "I don't know. Let's go see." And when it was under $100, he let me buy it. I bought a Sound Blaster Advanced Wave Effects 32.
That's fine because my next sound card was a Sound Blaster Live Value, which I still have and still works, and it goes in the PCI slot.
The Live came so far after the AW32.
Oh, but that Live, I was rocking the 4.1 surround with the EAX back in 98. 99.
You realize in the Linux box I got going here, I'm still using my Sound Blaster Live.
I'm using my onboard and video, whatever.
It's a Live Platinum, but you know what? For recording the show, I have a $20 external USB sound card that is better than any sound card I ever owned.
All right.
But the point is, I got the AW32. And the thing is, the AW32 it was basically two sound cards in one. It had a Sound Blaster 16 just in it, complete. It worked perfectly. It also had basically a MIDI card, and it had separate DMAs and separate memory addresses. And I remember in TIE Fighter, which hitherto it had no sound. I did the configuration after I got this AW32 installed, and I figured it out. And I set up the wave sounds and all those things to play from the Sound Blaster.
Also the Red Book audio from the CD?
Yes, all that played through the Sound Blaster. But I could specify in TIE Fighter and a lot of other games a separate memory location to send the MIDI information to. So it played the MIDI, which was all the music in that game, from this separate thing. And it was like night and day. It sounded better than I had ever heard it sound before because the MIDI just sounded like crap on the old Sound Blaster.
Yeah, the MIDI is like, people don't realize this, right? MIDI, we could do a show, we'll have to do a show on MIDI, but
someday.
The MIDI, basically instruments that were in the Sound Blaster 16, they're classic. I love them, right? But if you take those same MIDI files and send them to a modern sound card,
or even to an AW32.
Yeah. It's completely different.
Because it had sound fonts. I could load different instruments into my sound card on the low level in its own memory. Oh my God. I would go around I remember I would invite friends over and we would sit around listening to MIDI files.
Yeah, because they're basically MIDI is a set of instructions that tells a machine, what to play. So
play an A with the instrument in this memory address.
Yeah, so it'll say,
it'll
say, hit the drum now. And then again now, and then again now, and then now 3 times. It's instructions on how to play a song. So if you have a Sound Blaster 16 and you send a MIDI file to it, how does it play this file? Well, it has digital instruments in it, and it plays them. If your sound card has different or better digital instruments in it, the same file, the same set of instructions will sound different because what's actually generating the noise is different. It's interpreting those instructions differently. It's not like an actual analog wave recorded like you'll get an MP3 or wave file. It's, it's like sheet music. If I give the same sheet music to different people with 2 different instruments, right? So different sound cards are different instruments when it comes to MIDI. So when I played MIDI files in the Sound Blaster Live and they didn't sound like the Sound Blaster 16, I was simultaneously amazed and disappointed. Okay, this show didn't have a lot of focus, but I don't really care.
That's fine. It's all Dave and Joel style.
I wanted to talk more about the old nostalgia of taking an Apple II and, the noises when you turn it on and the smells and the
I remember
keys.
the old nostalgia of holding down F5 to boot into. I remember the old nostalgia of breaking into the computers,
flipping the
school.
floppies over, hearing it go, playing path,
that
playing
sound,
path tactics.
Because every time I turned on an old computer, it checked to see if there was a floppy to boot from.
You want me to go? I can go plug the computers in and turn them on. We can hear the noise. I have the drives.
The death rattle of when you know it. I remember as a kid sitting there, and you'd be in the computer lab after school, and someone's loading up a game, or they've got the disc with their project, and they're gonna read it, and then you hear, and then suddenly everyone looks over because we all know that disc is fucked.
Yeah, floppies are so bad.
Remember, you could make a bomb out of a floppy.
Yeah.
You can't do that with a CD.
Nope. All right. I think the show's over.
I don't know. We talked a lot about other stuff. I talked about my skis. I'm excited. Oh yeah. The stock market, right? So on Friday, it like went down a whole bunch, and it was under.
Way to put this in the wrong part of the show.
It's not a stinger, but it's a follow-up bit. So I was sitting at work, right? And I'm working on stuff, and I'm in this meeting, and I'm working on stuff and listening and talking, working, listening, talking. And then I notice that the Dow has just gotten to 9,000.
Uh-oh.
So I go to YouTube, and I turn my speakers up, and I play, his power level is over 9,000!
9,000?
9,000! And everyone looks at me, and they didn't know what it was, but they got it.
All right.
I don't know if it's going to become a meme at my work. I don't know if I've spread that in some small way, but I was happy that later when I went to FARC, someone posted that pretty early, as well they should have.
It's sort of the obvious joke to make, which is always the problem. Is when a joke is obvious, it's less funny.
But at the same time, I will always
But at the other hand, if it wasn't made, if no one made the joke, it would be sad. It's like a joke that must be made.
I will always find it's over 9,000 hilarious for the rest of my days.
We got to find something else that's going to go over 9,000. Maybe some football player will, achieve 9,000 rushing yards.
Oh my God.
Something.
You realize the 9,000th episode of Geeknights is going to be fucking fantastic?
I don't even know what episode this is.
That's like 600 and something,
I don't even
guess.
think we're at 1,000 yet.
We got a long way to go. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.